MeMonster.
Chapter 61. Praesis looked at me with unwavering eyes. I knew she wanted power, and it seemed she understood exactly what she wanted. But telling me her story was pointless, no matter how many times she tried. I narrowed my eyes and spoke. "So you want me to help you?" "That's right. I don't understand why you're asking someone like me for help. Wouldn't it be much easier to wield power if you were a princess? Skilled knights would line up to serve you." Praesis's gaze wavered. The girl closed her eyes tightly and lowered her head. "I'm just a scarecrow, only a princess in name. Besides that, there's nothing to me. No one listens to me. No one follows me. But you have money. You could hire mercenaries. Then I'll hire you as a mercenary. I'll pay you as much as you want. I might be only a princess by name, but I have plenty of gold coins." Praesis rummaged through her dress and pulled out a silk pouch filled with sparkling gold coins. But I had to refuse the hand offering me the pouch. "I don't know what you want to do. I have several things in mind." "It's a refusal. Find someone else." "Why?" "It's the one who wants to ask why. I might not understand the value of money in this place, but with that amount of gold, you could hire more capable people." "Because you didn't mock my story." Praesis spoke with a serious voice. "When I brought up the story of my dream, no one believed me. No one even tried to listen properly. But you're different. That's why I want to hire you." This is troublesome. This kid is just an NPC. If what I heard during the promotion ceremony is correct, the current stage is Taunya's past. Even if I wanted to accept, the contract couldn't be fulfilled. This brat and I were in a temporary relationship, and we'd part ways when the mission was over. I shook my head. "Is it a refusal?" "There's a reason for this." "What reason?" Outside the window, the sky was still a pale blue. There was plenty of time until deep night. I looked at the girl in front of me. Praesis was examining my expression with a serious gaze. I sighed, and then spoke. "We came from a different world." "A different world?" "A really messed up place. There, we're given missions, and if we don't fulfill those missions, we die. Our coming here was also part of that mission." "What are you talking about? Coming from a different world?" I didn't expect her to understand. After thinking a bit more, I decided to add to my explanation. There was nothing to do until dawn anyway. It wouldn't be bad to keep this kid company. I explained the goal of this mission, that it was about escorting, and if we failed to protect the target, we would die. As I finished speaking, Praesis held out her hand in confusion. "Wait a moment. So you guys came to this place from a different world to fulfill a mission?" "Yeah. When the mission is over, we're forcibly sent back to our original world. So I can't take on your request." "Such a silly story," Praesis mumbled in a low voice. "It wasn't something easy to talk about, but it wasn't impossible either. No matter who I told, they wouldn't believe it, and even if it was revealed, it wouldn't have any impact. I just needed to keep my secret hidden." "Is this a lie to avoid me?" "Think what you want. Whether you believe it or not doesn't matter." "Then I understand. I'll trust your story. So, you guys are warriors from a different world." I felt a bit dumbfounded, but then regained my senses. "Well, she's a girl who seriously believes in what she saw in a dream. Just as you didn't mock my story, I won't disregard yours. I know there are reasons. I won't hold you any longer. You should do your thing. I'll do mine." "What's your thing?" "Isn't it obvious? To prevent that dream from becoming a reality." I recalled the situation when the mission started. The citizens were gathering in the central square of the city. "Were you the one who gathered these people in the square?" "The Silver Temple? Yes, I did. I was planning to give a speech." "Why were you planning to give a speech?" "To gain influence. As I am now, compared to my brother, I'm no different than a beggar." Influence. If things were normal, this kid would have been dead and buried here 9 times out of 10. If there's any meaning to the pick-me-up mission, it meant that this NPC named Priasis Alragna had some value worth resurrecting. I closed my eyes. As a master, I remembered the mission of my previous game, Niflheim. At first glance, they seemed unrelated. Scenes of heroes and NPCs having conversation-like interactions were visible, but the contents were inaudible. The locations and times were all mixed up, but upon closer examination, I came to the conclusion that there might be common threads connecting the missions. I wonder if the contract has already been made. I chuckled. My name is Han. Han? Priasis muttered my name, repeatedly, as if tasting it. Thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have died. It's not over yet. Is that so? They want to kill you. Do you have any idea why? I don't know. If you don't know, then forget about it. Priasis lowered her head. I seem to have acquired roughly the information I could get by asking. Waiting began again. I decided to take another look around the house. Until a few years ago, this seemed to be the home of a prosperous family. The feeling of life remained in every corner. In the wardrobe on the second floor, I found worn but relatively clean clothes. I came downstairs to the living room and tossed the clothes to Priasis, who was half dozing. Change into these. Priasis widened her eyes and looked at the fabric. It was a worn shirt and skirt with traces of use. You stand out too much. You're like a walking billboard. A billboard? Used the wrong term. I chuckled bitterly. Anyway, Priasis's attire easily caught the eye. Even if it was dirty, the golden crown and silver dress would shine even in darkness. It would be a hindrance to our future actions. You want me to wear these clothes? Then what about what I was wearing? I'll get rid of that. There's a trash bin outside. I see. Do you dislike it? Priasis raised her head, but her face was visibly gloomy. No, I'm grateful. It's about time to get rid of it. However, let me be alone. Sure. I walked into the corridor leading to the living room. There was a sound of fabric rustling. Then a hint of sobbing mixed in. Is she crying? Even if it's just in name, she's a princess. At most, she's in her mid-teens. It wouldn't be easy to accept that she's suddenly under the threat of assassination. When I returned to the living room, Priasis handed me the dress and the crown with an indifferent expression. I received the dress and the crown, went outside to avoid triggering any traps, and tossed them into the trash bin. I returned to the living room. The princess was touching her old skirt. The texture is strange. It's strange indeed. Insects were laying eggs in it. What? I'm joking. Don't make jokes like that. I grinned and patted Priasis.
Although she still stood out due to her silver hair, things improved a bit. Her stature was small, so as long as she concealed her body properly, she wouldn't be easily noticed. I sat down on a chair in the living room and spoke. We'll depart in 2 or 3 hours. Get some rest.
What about food?
Are you hungry? There's nothing to eat. Understood. I'll rest a little. Priasis leaned against the wall again and settled down. Then she began to doze off. She looked tired. I looked out the window. The sky had darkened. There was barely any moonlight, and both inside and outside the house were pitch black. It didn't hinder my vision much. It was thanks to my awakened skill, inner sight, which I acquired before coming to this place. Even in darkness, I could discern the outlines of objects. And when the house was completely dark, Adis returned. Seeing Priasis sleeping soundly, Adis chuckled briefly. Adis could also see objects in the dark, just like I could. She's sleeping well. The exit? I found it. There's a bit of a problem, though. Adis started explaining what she saw and heard. We couldn't go beyond the predetermined route. Although she tried to go outside through a gap in the collapsed city wall, an invisible barrier blocked her, making it impossible. Tricks won't work, huh? It seems we can only go through the main gate. The main gate is likely heavily guarded. The situation was getting annoying. If there was time, we would have explored further, but I couldn't guarantee how long Aaron could hold out. There was also the possibility that the soldiers would start searching the area. We had to escape the city by the end of this dawn at most. It can't be helped. I couldn't delay this any longer. I pushed the chair and woke up Priasis. Priasis woke up quickly. "Get up. We're moving now." Understood. "It's going to be quite dark outside. Stick close behind me." Priasis nodded her head. The three of us left the house together. The streets were engulfed in darkness. Even with my awakened sight, if I didn't concentrate, I could easily lose my sense of direction. Torches moved in various places. Adis whispered in a low voice, "Those are patrolling soldiers. They're very visible. As long as we avoided the torches, we wouldn't run into the soldiers." Following Adis's guidance, we walked through several alleys and finally emerged onto a main road. I hid in the shadows of a building, keeping my upper body low as I looked ahead. Torches were gathered in the distance, and the yellow light from the torches illuminated the surroundings. The city gate was revealed. I quickly counted the number of enemies standing near the gate. 21 level 11 human soldiers, 1 level 21 human knight. As I recognized them, a message appeared indicating the appearance of the enemies. There's quite a crowd. In total, 22. It was too many for just the two of us to handle. Moreover, there was a knight in black armor standing in front of the gate. His level was suspiciously high. If he was level 21, he was at least 5 levels higher than the knights I had faced before. Should we try another city gate? It's a waste of time. They'll probably be similar. There weren't many exits, and there would be enemies guarding each exit like this. If I were alone, I could break through somehow, but there was a VIP to protect behind me. She had to go out of the gate to achieve the mission success condition. Did I make the wrong choice? If I had abandoned Aaron and forcibly exited through a break-in, the mission would have been much easier to accomplish. I scratched my head nervously. There was no turning back. I had to play the best move from the cards I had. "Adis, do you know Aaron's party's location?" "No, not that far." "You've understood the city's layout, right?" Adis nodded her head. Geography is the basis of information gathering. Adis must have analyzed the city's structure before finding the exit. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to provide accurate guidance. "There's one thing I need you to do." "Sure." "I need you to go back to the house where we were. In the trash can next to it, there's the dress and crown of the kid. Take those clothes and join Aaron's group. Dress Jenna in them." "Are you serious?" "We're going to use her as bait. It's deep into the night. Jenna and Priasis had similar builds. If I put the clothes on her, unless someone examined her closely, it would be hard to tell them apart. When Jenna wears the clothes, cause as much chaos as possible within the bounds of not getting caught. Most of the enemy forces over there should be drawn away. In the meantime, I'll take the kid and clear a path. The city might be vast, but there are limited places to hide. Can you do it?" After a brief hesitation, Adis nodded and disappeared to where we came from. I placed the shield in a corner of the building and unsheathed my sword from its scabbard. The metal shield had a chance of reflecting light. "Aaron, 2 stars, has been inflicted with poison status. Health will decrease at regular intervals. Hero's poisoning is worsening. The time he could manage with a potion seemed to be reaching its limit. Drawing the enemy's attention and protecting Aaron. It was a bit challenging, but I had no choice but to believe in them. At most, it would be an hour. Within that time frame, this would be over."
Chapter 62. I spoke to Priasis, who was tense, her face set with determination. "Stay here. When I give you the signal, run outside, even if you get hurt, even if I die. Understood?" Priasis nodded and slowly moved with me through the alley that connected to the main road. Just before we entered, she looked at me and whispered softly, "This might be our last time together." "It could be," I replied briefly, then buried myself deep in the building's shadow. If Jenna, dressed as the princess, was spotted, the entire city's forces would converge. With me absent and Aaron already injured, the party could be wiped out before Aaron's death. I moved forward, muffling my footsteps.
As I approached the city gate, a strange sensation swept over me, as if my senses were fading. Skill awakened. Han, 2 stars, has acquired stealth. It was a skill useful for reducing the chance of being detected by monsters, a skill a thieves or rogues might learn. I seemed able to learn it because I hadn't yet undergone job advancement. My outline in the shadows became even fainter. I approached the gate, close enough to distinguish faces. Priasis was hidden in the alley, only her head peeking out as she watched me. The enemy count? 22. I didn't know how many would stay after the baiting. In the worst case, I might have to fight all the enemies here. I silently moved forward, dagger in hand. About 20 minutes later, the unexpected happened. Boom, 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 crash. From a distant corner of the city, explosive sounds erupted, followed by a massive whirlwind of flames. The flickering blaze temporarily illuminated the city. I hurriedly hid behind a nearby trash bin. A dazed soldier widened his eyes. "What's that?" Soon, crimson flames surged into the sky with a roar, coloring the dark sky like fireworks display. Looks like she safely joined them. But this was Aoka's doing. The fire shot upward. There was no reason to send flames into the sky except to attract attention. It was a signal to me. A little later, soldiers rushed from the other side of the main road. One approached the commander at the gate and whispered something. Presumably, the commander asked, "Have you found her?" "Yes, she is in a white dress with a golden frown, just as the intelligence described. But there is chaos among the escort troops. It seems reinforcements are needed." The commander nodded and began giving orders. Soon soldiers marched out of the gate, each holding a torch. I counted them from behind the trash bin. 2, 3, 4, 10, 15, 18. Out of 22, 18 were gone. Only 4 soldiers remained at the gate. It was better than expected. The only regret was that the knight I had been watching hadn't left. Clad in black armor, he stood at the entrance like a statue. As quickly as possible, I drew the sword slightly from its sheath. All torches were gathering at a certain point. Screams and shouts echoed nearby. Hundreds of soldiers were gathered there. There was little room for error. Jenna, dressed as the princess, met my eyes. She whispered, as if encouraging me, "Let's do it." I stood up. In an instant, I emerged from the shadows. A soldier holding a torch noticed me. Swoosh! The gleam of my sword flashed, and the soldier's neck jerked. Blood spurted from the decapitated body. The soldier next to him quickly grabbed his waist. "What?" The sword, which had cleanly cut through one neck, sliced through the second just as easily. The sensation of bones being severed sharply reached my wrist. The last soldier remaining on the other side of the torch fire met my eyes as he watched the flames rise. I smirked and threw the dagger from my belt. The soldier clutched the dagger stuck in his throat, disbelief in his eyes, then collapsed. It took just 2 seconds to kill 3 soldiers. Only 1 knight remained. I tightened my grip on the sword. Although I couldn't see his face behind the visor, I could tell he wasn't shaken. He remained motionless, as if frozen in place. I spun the blood-stained sword in a circle. "Step aside, then I won't kill you." The knight silently drew the sword from his back. Although more like a hunk of iron than a weapon, the massive sword moved with incredible fluidity. Seems words won't work. I didn't think they would anyway. I took a short breath. The knight was clad in sturdy full-plate mail. With my current abilities, I couldn't penetrate the armor entirely. I had to target the joints in the steel plates. Not much of an opening. At a glance, it seemed the knight was standing still, but he was in a stance where he could deflect an attack at any moment. He was at least 2 steps above the temple's knights in skill. The knight didn't make the first move. In this game of mouse and cat, I was the impatient one. I positioned the sword horizontally and thrust, aiming for the joint where the elbow's steel plate connected. If I exerted enough force, I might pierce the armor. Clang! The knight deflected the thrust with his great sword. I moved to the side and aimed for his left. The knight blocked it again, this time, above. Then I aimed low. Blocked. I gathered all my strength and swung down.
The knight held the greatsword with both hands to block. Blue sparks flew from the clash of our blades. This guy. I stepped back 3 paces. The knight spread his greatsword. Cold eyes behind the visor were fixed on me. He won't attack. I intentionally created openings between attacks, but he didn't counter. He remained at the entrance, unyielding and focused on defense. The reason was clear. He knows that even if he just buys time, he wins. By now, Aaron's party and the soldiers were probably engaged in a fierce battle. We couldn't hold out for long. If things continued this way, it would be a wipeout. Not just a wipeout. When the expedition force returned, both Priasis and I would die. I spoke in a low voice. Step out of the gate. Ugh. A scraping sound, like iron on iron, came from the visor. I cleared a path. I might be able to get Priasis through while holding the knight back, but the knight didn't budge. He was still standing at the entrance. Then die. Han, 2 stars, has entered a frenzy state. I triggered the switch in my mind. The veins on my sword arm stood out vividly. I charged forward and swung the sword forcefully. Clang. The steel plate was dented deeply. The knight wavered for a moment, but managed to block the second stripe aimed at his neck. But he couldn't block the third strike aimed at his thigh. The grip had a strong anti-recoil mechanism. With power approaching 40, I couldn't penetrate the steel plate, but I could break it. Clang, clang, clang. Every swing of my sword caused the armor to deform. I aimed for the gaps between the plates, exposed during his moves, but the knight desperately defended each spot. Even so, it wouldn't take more than 10 minutes to bring him down. Jenna, 2 stars, is in a bleeding state. Her health decreases at regular intervals.
Aaron, 2 stars, has entered a critical state. His life is in danger. Unbelievable. Iolka, 3 stars, has entered a mana surge state. Tips. Mana surge is a state that occurs when a magician uses magic excessively. It hasn't even been 10 minutes yet. The gap in the knight's visor traced a line resembling a smile. The knight wouldn't attack. He feared countering. He was stationed at the entrance, blocking only fatal strikes. "Kid, run!" I shouted loudly, no longer caring if the surrounding soldiers heard. Priasis stumbled out onto the street, then started to run. Clang! The clash of swords rang out. I yelled fiercely, "No matter what happens, don't worry about it. Get out of the gate. Run along the path." Priasis sprinted desperately. The knight remained steadfast in the middle of the gate. He wouldn't move for me, but he would for Priasis. He would strike without hesitation. "Get lost!" I used all my strength to push the knight away. The knight held up his greatsword to block, but his body was pushed back. In that gap, Priasis lunged. Swish! With the sound of slicing air, the greatsword swung. I quickly twisted my body. My stance was shaky, but I managed to block it somehow. A powerful impact shook my whole body. Above the gate, a shadow projected from the ceiling, casting a violet line toward Priasis as she passed through the passage. An assassin. There was no room to block with a sword. I turned my body and took the dagger. The dagger pierced into my left shoulder. Han, 2 stars, is now in a poisoned state. Health decreases at regular intervals. Party wipe crisis. Master, the party's situation is critical. This time, the knight swung his greatsword at me. I couldn't feel anything in my left arm where the dagger had stuck. I was struck by the greatsword. My body, weaker than the weight, slammed into the corridor wall. Han, 2 stars, is in a bleeding state. Health decreases at regular intervals. Han, no! If you stop, you'll die by my hands. Pausing briefly, Priasis turned to look at me, nodded slightly, and started running again. I inspected my left shoulder. Violet liquid was oozing from the half-buried dagger. I skimmed it with the blade of my sword. Then, as I got up, I swung the sword in the air. The poisonous liquid on the sword sprayed onto the knight's visor. The knight clutched his face. "Did it get in your eyes?" I chuckled weakly. Edis, 3 stars, is in a bleeding state. Health decreases at regular intervals. I looked around. I saw a crossbow aimed at the target. The target needed no introduction. It was Priasis, escaping through the gate. But the assassin was too far to reach her. I picked up a stone from the ground and hurled it. Bing! Mid-flight, the stone collided with the bolt and sent it veering off course. The assassin stared at me in disbelief. "What are you looking at, punk?" I pulled out the dagger lodged in my left shoulder and threw it. The dagger plunged into the assassin's hood. The assassin collapsed immediately. Gradually, Priasis's figure vanished beyond the gate. Phew! I looked down. The knight was clutching his head, writhing in pain. He seemed to want to remove the helmet, but his arms only twitched feebly outside it. I picked up the greatsword lying next to the knight with one hand. With all my strength, I swung the greatsword down on the knight's head. Thump! A section of the helmet caved in deeply, and black fluid splattered through the gaps. The knight froze like a dead insect. After confirming the deaths of the knight and the assassin, I leaned against the wall, collapsing. Blood flowed from the long gash on my body. I had blocked the greatsword, but my stance hadn't been good, and I was injured. Han, 2 stars, is in a poisoned state. Health decreases at regular intervals. The poison is spreading quickly. I let out a cough. The blood I spat out was tinged with purple. I slid down against the wall, feeling like I was slipping away. What a mess. 5th floor, 10th floor, 15th floor. Every mission pushed my body to its limits. Tired. I closed my eyes. My job was done. The rest depended on whether the party could hold out until the target reached its destination. Considering their conditions, Aaron was close to death, Edis and Jenna were injured, and Iolka couldn't use magic. A while later, a message appeared in the darkness. The escorted target has escaped the city. Stage cleared. Han, 2 stars. Jenna, 2 stars. Aaron, 2 stars. Iolka, 3 stars. Edis, 3 stars. Level up. Rewards, 100,000 gold. 3 A-grade iron ores. MVP, Han, 2 stars. Is there anyone dead? All 5 of us leveled up. I faintly smiled.
Chapter 63. Back through the rifts of time and space. The familiar circular field appeared. I hung my sword on my belt and raised my shield. My wounds and the poison had been thoroughly cleansed, but a strong sense of discomfort lingered from the aftermath of recovery. "Whoa, I thought I was going to die," Jenna said, slapping my shoulder as she got up. When she saw me, she ignited a small flame. "Oppa, you're the one who told her to give me those weird clothes, didn't you? Feeling unhappy? They looked pretty expensive, though." "Clothes are clothes in their own way, but they're uncomfortable to move in. They were in a trash can. And did you know the soldiers rushed at me like they were crazy? They only targeted me." Jenna grumbled as she slung her bow over her shoulder. I grinned and opened the door leading to the plaza. The distinctive cool air of the waiting room enveloped me. I glanced back at my party members. Edis was stowing a thrown dagger into her sheath, and Iolka was catching her breath, looking a bit depleted. Jenna was counting her arrows in her quiver. Aaron had his head bowed. Not many of us were unscathed. They acted nonchalant, but even Jenna's hand trembled slightly as she counted arrows. Edis was probably the only one calm. As expected, if we had been a minute late clearing the stage, there might have been casualties. The fact that no one died could only be attributed to luck. Recording complete. Video saved. The video will be stored in the gallery. You can also watch it with other users online. I looked up. The sky was shining white. It had taken about 6 hours to clear the mission. Since the sky was like this, anything probably had been watching us for a long time. If he logged in late at night, he might have stayed up all night. "Master, would you like to end the connection?" Yes. Goodbye then. Anything disconnected just as the message announcing the completion of the recording appeared. The sky darkened. I could see extra personnel heading to the equipment workshop beyond the door to the plaza on their way to work. Is it already morning? Good job, everyone. No one died, and we cleared the boss stage. Especially Edis. It would have been much harder without you. It was just a matter of course, Edis replied with a soft smile. She was practically the MVP of this mission. She quickly analyzed the city's geography and provided accurate information to the party. Both leading the soldiers away and setting up decoys wouldn't have been possible without Edis. Are you going back to the second party now? That's the plan. I wasn't planning on staying long anyway. The master will fill my position with someone else. I see. It's a shame. Skilled thieves weren't easy to find. While battles were important, the thief class was essential for other missions. Jenna was somewhat similar, but she was also an archer and hadn't undergone a job change yet. She was lacking in various ways compared to Edis. I'll go first, Edis said, securing her dagger on her belt before leaving for the plaza. Asher and Dika were waiting for her there. With both of her comrades, Edis returned to her quarters. It's always this hard, Iolka sighed. I want to rest now, too. I stayed up all night. My skin feels damaged. Do as you please. You've worked hard, too. So have you. Iolka glanced at Aaron, who still had his head lowered, before leaving the space-time rift. Now, only Jenna, Aaron, and I remained. Jenna finished her preparations and approached Aaron. Aaron, Oppa, don't be disappointed. It was just bad luck. You didn't cause any harm. Aaron didn't respond. Jenna sighed. Well, I'll be going too. See you tomorrow. I nodded. Jenna disappeared into the rift. There was no reason for me to stay either. I needed to rest and recover before thinking about what to do next. As I was about to leave the plaza, I heard Aaron's voice. Youngnim, what is it? I'm sorry, it's because of me. I know well enough. I grinned. Objectively, we had suffered quite a lot because of Aaron in this mission. We wouldn't have faced a crisis if he hadn't been injured, but it was entirely my decision. Even if we had been wiped out, it was due to my lack of judgment, not something I blamed Aaron for. Don't do that next time. I won't save you twice. Is there a guarantee that I won't do it next time? What nonsense is this again? Hyungnim, do you plan to keep pulling me along until the end? Aaron's voice trembled. I looked back. I couldn't see his expression as he bowed his head deeply. No matter how hard I try, I don't think I can catch up. The gap seems to widen as time goes on. With Ioka, Jenna, and you, Hyungnim. And I'm sorry, I think I'm just talking nonsense. After shaking his head, Aaron walked past me in a heavy-hearted manner and left the space-time rift. As we emerged into the plaza, I caught sight of Aaron's back as he headed toward the training grounds. Indeed, I knew what he was struggling with. Aaron's current level is 14, the same as Jenna's and similar to mine, but if you look into the details, there's quite a gap. First, Aaron's growth stats are at the lowest level, 4 from the 1-star tier. Jenna and I got into 5 midway through, and I sometimes went up to 6, but Aaron didn't change even when he was promoted. And when it came to skills, the gap was even more severe. Aaron had novice spear arts, pain resistance, and flame resistance. Of course, having numerous skills didn't necessarily mean they were good, but Aaron's proficiency wasn't high. His highest level skill, novice spear arts, was only at level 4. His foundation in combat skills was solid, but his ability to apply them was sorely lacking. For now, we might be able to get by somehow, but as time passed, the gap would widen significantly. Eventually, Aaron would either be excluded from the party or die because of his lack of ability. He lacked talent. I had nothing to say about that. I did feel a slight attachment to Aaron, otherwise I would have discarded him without hesitation when he got poisoned.
but I wasn't so mad as to force an utterly useless member into the party. He hasn't much time left with us anyway. If he can't keep up, I'll discard him. That fact was still valid. Well, rather than discarding, it's more like finding him a different role. Coincidentally, the position of instructor at the training grounds was vacant. Aaron would do well in that role. I returned to my lodgings. The next morning, I instructed the members gathered at the training grounds to engage in self-training. Until now, we had followed a semi-compulsory training schedule, so this was essentially a declaration of vacation. It would last for 3 days. Anything would probably also refrain from sending us into battle during this time. Is it for real? You're not going to just feed us potatoes because we're not training, right? I told you, that's not it. Have I been lying to you?
Iolka cheered in delight before immediately dashing out at the training grounds. I knew where she was headed, straight to a room where she kept various precious items she had earned from her research. What about you guys? We'll take a bit of a break. It's become a habit. We're planning to rest only until the evening. Jenna tied a sandbag to each ankle and started stretching, getting ready for track running. Aaron was also toning his body beside her. You're doing it even if I tell you not to. You're the same, Opa. Ironically, I also had a sandbag tied to my ankles. It weighed about 10 kilograms. It was more like a lump of iron than a sandbag. Without this much, it would be impossible to consume my stamina. I could do hundreds of push-ups in perfect form, run 100 meters in around 8 seconds, and even break tree trunks with my bare hands. My body had already reached the limits of human potential. Interference energy. It was the source that granted heroes the power to transcend humanity. Isel had explained it that way. It was truly an inexplicable phenomenon if not for interference. In less than half a year, I had become a monster that was half outside the realm of humanity. Running along the track, I looked around the training grounds. The heroes in training were Roderick, Asher, and Didika from the second party, along with Velkist and Nerissa. They were both promising members of the third party, which had rapidly risen from the 2-star tier. The chances were high that one of them would join our party. So, we had 3 members in the first party, 3 in the second party, and 2 in the third party, a total of 8 members in the training grounds. I glanced at the plaza beyond the open door. There were numerous people resting near the fountain, dozens of them. They chatted while sitting on benches or taking walks. There were no noticeable shadows on their faces. These were the lower-tier heroes who had been summoned after I handed over the strategy book to Anything. Initially, they had been eager to improve, but over time, they started to slack off. They hardly spent any time at the training grounds, and they were also lacking in supplemental skills. The reason was simple. Anything didn't synthesize anyone. They didn't need to compete, and they spent most of their time resting. Velkist spat. One of his scarred eyes twisted in discomfort. He was also from the second generation, but he was a variant. Even though he hadn't undergone synthesis, he voluntarily engaged in training. His training intensity was comparable to Aaron's, and his talent was excellent. However, he had a slight personality issue. After completing 3 laps around the track, loud laughter echoed from the plaza. Someone had cracked a joke. Huh. Velkist chuckled, then mumbled softly, "When I came to the waiting room for the first time, I heard an interesting story." I stopped my tracks. The other members also paused. With all eyes on him, Velkist continued. "It doesn't matter who you were before coming here, whether noble or trash. If you want to live, prove your usefulness. Show your own worth." Velkist looked at me with a twisted smile. Was this about the time I subdued the Fangwolf mercenary party? I had said something similar, but this guy was referring to something that happened long before he arrived. When someone told me those words, I got excited. It's a place where anything is possible as long as I prove my worth. Knowing this, even fighting for my life was enjoyable. The laughter of those bastards who were worse than pigs outside can be heard here. Pigs, huh?
Didika grimaced. Worse than pigs, indeed. They only know how to eat and do nothing else. Isn't that right, seniors? Velkist pulled his sword halfway from its sheath, then licked the blade with his tongue. A murderous glint shone in his eyes. If the seniors allow, could I do a bit of education? Would that be okay? Velkist had outstanding talent and enthusiasm, but there was this kind of issue. I frowned. Don't go out of your way. Isn't it okay as long as I don't kill them? I drew my sword without saying anything. Velkist laughed heartily and sheathed his sword. I'm too scared to continue, sorry for being bold, but you have to give me an answer. Was what the senior said just a lie? Prove your worth? Is that what you mean? It seems to me that it doesn't matter whether I prove my worth or not. I heard there was a very good system called synthesis to dispose of trash, but strangely, the master seems to not use it. Don't use synthesis recklessly. That was one of the fundamental principles of Niflheimer. When I posted the strategy, many masters followed this principle, but they all failed. Fear was one of the most powerful motivators for heroes' actions. If there was no fear of synthesis, heroes wouldn't listen to the masters. They would act lazy, move on their own, and often refuse orders. The current situation, with a very limited number of active people compared to the number of heroes, had similar causes. Do your tasks. You'll understand the meaning of my words soon. Really? Yes. I'll be watching. I'm looking forward to it. Velkist returned to a corner of the training grounds and started training again. I sheathed my sword and looked outside. People in the plaza were still laughing and chatting.
That's if he had seen that document, my play record that I had handed over to anything. It contained my thoughts on this phenomenon.
Chapter 64. Early at dawn, after finishing the meal Chloe had prepared, I headed out to the training grounds. As usual, I followed the same schedule, returning late in the evening, but there were no expeditions to the dungeon. The members of the first party were excluded from the dungeon runs that had once been routine. After conquering the 15th floor, it seemed anything was focusing on something else. His main tasks now were nurturing sub-parties and collecting resources. After completing morning training and on my way to the dining hall for lunch, I saw a group of heroes emerging from the rifts of time and space. They were the party that had just finished the weekly dungeon. Enoch, the carpenter, was among them, his expression deeply furrowed. As he was about to separate from the group and enter the warehouse, I grabbed his arm. "What's wrong?" "They're not helping," Enoch replied in an emotionless tone. "They tossed a few branches and just chatted in the forest. Thanks to that, I worked hard all by myself." Enoch glanced at the people heading to the dormitories and sighed. It was rare for Enoch to express himself this way, with so little emotion change. The situation has changed a lot. Back then, people like that had no choice but to die. Do you think the world is better now? Perhaps. I have to go. Enoch entered the warehouse, likely preparing to transport lumber to the equipment crafting center. As a skilled carpenter, he was constantly busy, with no time to spare. I looked up at the sky. Anything was logged in. He must have noticed that the results of the weekly dungeon and training were not the same as before. Operational efficiency was rapidly declining. There were two ways to handle this. The first was mass synthesis. In that case, almost all second-generation heroes would be sacrificed, but work and training efficiency would increase. If you didn't want to die, there was no other choice. But this method had significant drawbacks. If synthesis was overused, the stress level in the waiting room would skyrocket. Most masters preferred to regulate stress by conducting synthesis at an appropriate level. The second way was to give heroes a motivation other than fear. Let's see how it plays out. Anything wouldn't just stand by like this. Whether the first or second option, a decision needed to be made. I entered the dormitory's dining hall. The lunch menu was boiled chicken soup. That evening, while practicing with my sword at the training grounds, the door to the magic workshop opened and Yoelka appeared. She had taken a break from training, but she hadn't stopped her research. It seemed she had successfully finished her research for today. After raising hero responsiveness and consistently researching without missing a beat, quite a few points had accumulated. Anything immediately brought up the research status window. Research. Current development status is as follows. Number 1, hero responsiveness research level 1. Number 2, facility scalability research level 0. Number 3, dungeon complexity research level 0. The cursor moved to select number 2. Facility scalability research has been selected. Would you like to upgrade? 150 research points will be consumed. Yes. Ding. Research. Facility scalability has become level 1. The number of buildable facilities will increase. You can modify the details of the facilities. Facility customization feature is now open. Tips. Facility customization allows you to restructure facility layouts. Dozens of construction tools are provided, allowing for the creation of even intricate and complex structures based on the master's manipulation. I took a sip of water. Research on facilities was complete. It seemed the process of renovating the waiting room was about to start. It had been a long time since expanding the waiting room, and there were many heroes now. It was a valid choice. As I stood up, Aaron, who had just finished sparring with Edis, approached me. Since returning from the 15th floor, Aaron's days had been filled with rigorous training from morning to night. His entire body was drenched in sweat. "Hey Nim, can we have one round? With that body, you won't last a minute." "I'm fine." "Aren't you pushing yourself too hard?" "Perhaps, but..." I attached the sword to my belt and leaned against the wall. As evening approached midnight, the training grounds were nearly empty except for members of the first and second party. The third party was out in battle. "Where are you going? It's still early." "I'm not going anywhere. I'm just preparing." "What? For what?" "Everyone, gather at the plaza!" Isel's voice echoed through the entire waiting room. I shrugged my shoulders. "For this? How do you predict things like this?" "Anyway, we need to gather. Training is on hold. Wrap up what you were doing." After placing the tools back on the rack, we headed to the plaza. Dozens of people were bustling there, enough to make the plaza feel crowded. Anything had conducted at least one draw a day, all of them free draws. Jenna looked up and mumbled, "It's the first time the master has called everyone like this." "Could it be for synthesis?" Edis's expression changed to one of concern. I laughed and said, 10 people would be synthesized." "That many? What's the problem? Master can always draw again." "So he's sacrificing them all." "True." I looked at the heroes gathered in the plaza. Support heroes like Chloe and Enoch, combat heroes like me, Jenna, and Edis, and even those who weren't really useful. The third-tier seedlings avoided my eyes, their eyes skittering away when they met mine. "Is everyone here, except for those who went to the dungeon? If you were sleeping and didn't come, you'll be in trouble." "Everyone's here," Chloe said. Isel nodded her satisfaction. "We're about to undergo major operation, so all of you stay put in the warehouse and don't come out. There's a chance you might get disappeared if you get caught in it. Got it?" "If it's an operation, it's the same thing we did last time." Jenna's eyes gleamed. "Well, the number of people has increased. It's time for some renovations. I wonder how things will change." "An operation? You came late, so you wouldn't know. Sometimes the master creates facilities in the waiting room. I wish they'd make a hot spring bath this time." Jenna responded to Edis's question with a cheerful smile. "Everyone here, head to the warehouse. Execute." The door to the warehouse creaked open. People entered one after another. When I entered, the door closed behind me. The warehouse was cold and dark. People whispered nervously, their faces anxious. Aaron asked me, "What do you think will come of this, Hangnail?"
Who knows? It's clear that things won't go as expected, but as expected? You'll see. There had been several opportunities to level up facilities. However, anything had waited until the scalability research was complete before starting the upgrades. The intention was clear. There were enough gems to build the facilities. Anything hadn't done any paid draws since the previous charge. A message guiding the construction appeared. "Constructing a facility. Please touch the desired facility type. Dormitory Level 3 has been selected. Would you like to expand this building?" "Yes." Dormitory has reached Level 3. Hero's possession limit has increased. Starting with the dormitory, the completion windows for buildings appeared one after another. Bathing House, a subsidiary building of dormitory, has been selected.
Would you like to construct it? Yes. Lounge, a subsidiary building of dormitory. Restaurant, a subsidiary building of dormitory. Training grounds, level 3. Krrrr. An untimely vibration shook the waiting room. People looked around uneasily. Bathing house has been completed. Hero's facility satisfaction will improve. Lounge has been completed. Hero's fatigue will significantly decrease. Restaurant has reached level 2. High-quality meals will be provided to heroes. Training grounds have reached level 3. Hero training efficiency will improve. Great! As facilities proliferate, the plaza evolves to level 3. Excellent! The waiting room evolved to level 2. More floors are added. You will be able to install more facilities. Anything didn't stop operating. Following the facility window, the customization window opened. Changing the structure of the facility, you can load external map data. Jenna was explaining the current situation to the people. You know the master, right? He's in the process of creating new buildings for us. We used to live in shabby places at first. You mean the facilities are improving? You can think of it that way. That's great. The beds were uncomfortable. Can we try new dishes too? People were chattering cheerfully all of a sudden, their faces filled with anticipation. Construction complete. Heroes can come out of the warehouse. The door leading to the plaza opened. People poured out as if they'd been waiting. Oh, wow, it's really different. The buildings have changed, someone exclaimed with delight. I walked out slowly from the back of the group. The second floor has been added. The structure of the plaza wasn't much different from before, but now there were tall stairs leading upward in one corner. Beyond the stairs was a transparent ceiling. It was both the ceiling of the first floor and the sky beyond the second floor, visible as if it pierced through. Bathing house! Bathing house! Interesting. Jenna ran towards the dormitory. Edith followed behind, muttering. A small parade formed from the warehouse to the dormitory. The dormitory now had a second floor, and so did the training grounds. In other words, the entire waiting room had transformed from a one-story to a two-story structure. First floor dormitory. Confusion rather than joy appeared on people's faces. Edith murmured, "Doesn't it feel worse for some reason?" That's true. The radiators were gone. The sofas were gone too. Decorations like carpets and frames had all disappeared. There were only a few chairs in the lobby that looked like they might break if you sat on them. What happened here? It wasn't like this last time. Jenna mumbled, puzzled. A young woman walked out into the corridor and said, "The beds are gone. Are you asking us to sleep on the floor now?" "That's impossible. There's no way." "There is a way." I stepped forward. Everyone's attention focused on me. I tapped the stairs with my foot and said, "Can't you see the stairs? Just go up." Could it be? Jenna's eyes sparkled, and she quickly climbed the stairs. Finally, as if understanding, people followed Jenna. The second floor perfectly met everyone's expectations. Soft carpets and a fireplace, plush sofas. In the rooms were beds with high-quality sheets, and the bathing house was filled with warm, clean water. People, their faces filled with joy, started discussing which room they would stay in. Of course, no one wanted to stay on the first floor. "Why are you all talking nonsense?" "Nonsense?" "It's not over yet." "Everyone, gather in the second floor plaza. Master will personally assign your rooms." This time, everyone gathered in the second floor plaza. The basic structure was similar, but from the second floor, you could look down at the first floor plaza. Configuring facility details. You have selected the dormitory. The subsidiary buildings are as follows: Restaurant, Level 2, Bathing House, Level 1, Lounge, Level 1. Restaurant, Level 2. Manager, Chloe, 1 star, Amarin, 1 star. Available types of dishes: meat, potatoes, fruits. Anything's control panel was moving chaotically in one corner of the field division. People thought something strange was happening, so they murmured. Edith frowned. "I can't understand Master's intent." I chuckled. What anything was doing was simple. He was creating a hierarchy in the waiting room.
Chapter 65. A while later, Anything's adjustments were complete. A system message appeared. Adjustment completed. Applying changed settings. Please wait a moment. Isel snapped her fingers. Where should I look? A thick book materialized from thin air. Isel unfurled it with a flourish and began to skim through its contents. The current total number of members in the main waiting room is 35, and the instructions from the master are... Isel muttered as she scanned the book. Jenna approached me and whispered, Oppa, what's happening? It's a bit strange. I think I'm fine. Do we really need to divide the first and second floors like this? It's almost like... Jenna trailed off. Nobles and commoners. If the master wants to handle us as he pleases, it's a natural measure. I don't like it, but it will turn out well. Ioka interjected, fluttering a fancy fan she had received as a gift. Nobles and commoners, huh? Jenna pouted. I gently placed my hand on Jenna's head. You wake up early in the morning and go to the training grounds. You work hard there until evening. Then you hunt in the weekday dungeon. More than half of the meat we eat comes from your hunting. You also perform well on missions. I turned to the crowd in the second-floor plaza and observed the murmuring people. Their faces were marked with deep unease. What about them? Jenna asked. They're not doing anything. You're quite naive, too. If it were me, I would have been annoyed a long time ago, Ioka said, covering her mouth with the fan. Edis, who had been listening, sighed. So instead of synthesis, he's creating classes. That's right. All the heroes in the waiting room had shared a similar lifestyle so far. They had slept in the same bed, eaten the same meals, and worn the same type of clothes. While efforts and achievements varied among individuals, rewards were equal. If the waiting room was managed mainly through synthesis with a small number of people, that would be acceptable. However, to advance the current primitive waiting room to the next level, certain measures were necessary to eliminate that. The principle of separation was the solution. Facility customization. Initially, this feature was used merely to decorate the waiting room. The masters didn't think that heroes possessed intelligence nearly equivalent to humans. They treated them as data with fixed abilities and ranks. But I was different. I quickly recognized this and found another use for the seemingly decorative feature. What Anything had built now was the A3 model I had used in the very early stages of Niflheim. It had its downsides, but it was the simplest way to reduce the rate of synthesis. The cross-section of this model was sketched in the play record. Isel closed the book. Then, sprinkling stardust, she turned around the plaza. Everyone, pay attention. I'm going to announce room assignments. Listen carefully, since I will only say this once. It's the master's strict order, so if you rebel without cause, expect consequences. Isel puffed up her cheek that hadn't lost its baby fat. Do you have a complaint? Isn't the room on the second floor big? Not enough? Everyone else is on the first floor. Isn't this wasteful? Exactly. At least 30 people can stay on the second floor. Reassign the rooms. A colleague of the man shouted loudly. Other discontented individuals began expressing their resentments in unison. Reassign the rooms. Right. How are we supposed to sleep in a room without a bed? It's bone-chilling. These people never stop when they get started. Isel laughed brightly and clenched her small fist. Then she soared into the air and descended, striking the ground as she landed. Boom! The whole waiting room shook violently as if a bomb had exploded. The people near Isel grabbed their buttocks. The plaza fell silent for a moment. Isel folded her wings and perched on the shattered bench. You guys are really something. Just a month ago you would all have been synthesized. Consider this being lucky. But what? Want to taste my nuclear punch? Isel raised her guard and extended her right hand as if throwing a punch. Her small hand moved at an unseen speed, emitting shockwaves. She might look like a petite fairy at first, but Isel was a level 257 monster. The commotion in the plaza subsided. Isel nodded her head with a satisfied expression. Now, no more complaints, right? Let's move on. Chloe, step forward. Chloe stepped forward with an apprehensive expression. Right, you. You're the head chef. The master ordered. From now on, you and Amarine will be the exclusive chefs for the second-floor restaurant.
Exclusive chefs? You'll be responsible for the second-floor residents' meals. Wait a minute. What now? You're taking all the chefs away? What are we supposed to do? Isel furrowed her brows. Figure it out yourselves, whether you eat dirt or not. Oh, I forgot to mention, from now on, meat consumption is prohibited on the first floor. Have you seen the potatoes in the first-floor pantry? Roast and eat them. No way! Are you telling us to eat only potatoes? Is that so strange? For fuck's sake, we're made to sleep in a place like shit, and now we're not even getting cooked meals. A robust man stepped forward bravely. Isn't it unfair that we were dragged here by some psycho who calls himself the master, and now he's treating us like this? Do you think we'll just take it lying down? What do you think will happen if you don't? Go to hell. The man drew a dagger and charged at Isel. Isel pushed up her sleeves. In the moment that she felt like she was going to clear a corpse, a flash of light erupted. The arm wielding the dagger spurted blood and shot into the air. The man stared at his severed right arm for a moment before screaming wildly, "Ah!" The young man in front of him stuck his tongue out, licked his lips, and twirled the dagger. Drops of blood scattered in all directions. It was Velkist. "What the hell are you doing? As long as you don't kill him, it's okay, right?" Velkist looked at the man writhing on the ground under his feet and said,
Stick your arm back on yourself. If you press it against the cross-section, it should stick by itself. But again, I've never tried cutting myself, so I wouldn't know. The plaza froze for a moment. Blood flowed from the sword Velkist held in his right hand. I came back after a round of beating, and there's an interesting scene happening. I like it a lot. My hands are itching. Are there any more brats like him? You lunatic! Someone hidden in the crowd shouted. It's better than being a damn pig. Don't you think so, Senior? Velkist looked at me and smirked. I frowned. Who the hell do you think you are to step forward? I apologize. It was so disgusting that my hand moved without my knowing. Velkist wiped off the blood and put the sword back in its sheath. Then he went to the wall in a corner of the plaza and leaned against it. The man was crawling toward his severed arm. He got lucky. If Velkist hadn't stepped in, Isel's hand would have crushed his skull. Isel soared into the air, then turned her gaze to the third party that had just joined the plaza. So, did you hear the news? You mean the division of the first and second floors? The first floor is crawling in the mud, and the second floor is treated well? In short, that's right. And you guys are on the first floor, too. Don't worry, we'll be up soon. Velkist pointed at me. Nerissa was standing beside him with her eyes closed. I'll summarize it again for the idiots who couldn't understand. Among the total of 35 members, 13 are on the second floor. The remaining 22 are on the first floor. The second floor folks have freedom. You can use all the facilities in the waiting room, but not the first floor folks. If you go up to the second floor and get caught, I might kill you. Isel clenched her fist threateningly. If you want to go to the second floor, improve your abilities. Everyone, pay attention. We have a perfect example right here. Isel pointed at me and stuck her nose up. Follow the example of the super ace who can do anything. Han, have you seen how we did on the 15th floor? Did you see it? You guys can't even imagine. Truly ingenious tactics and... I pulled Isel's cheek, but the attention was focused on me. Did I end up with another tiring role? I had said something similar before. I took a deep breath and spoke. If you want to be treated like a human being, you have to show your abilities, whether it's in battle or whatever. The master is watching you. If he deems it sufficient, even if you dislike it, he'll send you to the second floor. Even so, isn't this going too far? We were brought here without knowing anything, and now we're being forced into this kind of life? One of the guys burst into tears. Velkist detached himself from the wall. His right hand was on his sheath. I spoke in a chilly voice. Don't you dare make a move. Velkist returned to his spot in silence. I continued speaking. We're the same as you. We were dragged here without warning. No, it was even more cruel than that. Isn't that right, Jenna? Well, that's true. We didn't even have anything to eat. We would have ended up synthesized right away if we made a small mistake. We trained all day like idiots, and it's all coming back now. Does that mean you're telling us to fight alongside you? That's how it's going to be. We didn't really need many support or collection roles. Most of them would become combatant heroes, and among them, a handful of talented individuals would be able to go to the second floor. The guy lowered his head. One side accepts, and the other does not. It's half and half. Some people appeared deep in thought. There were also people going down to the first floor with a sense of resignation. But there were also those who clearly showed their dissatisfaction. It's a simple psychological response, given and then taken away. They had their enjoyment snatched in an instant. They were bound to be resentful. This part was a mistake by anything. To easily transition the system, the timing of free draws should have been delayed, or the steps should have been gradually implemented. To put it simply, the new system was established firmly, but also quickly, and hasty changes can cause a backlash. "Nonsense," someone said. A pleasantly chubby middle-aged man wiped his forehead and spoke. "We will not accept this. Being treated like trash and being told to go fight? Where's the logic in this? You bastards didn't follow orders even when you were well fed," Velkus sneered. The man didn't back down and shouted, "Isn't that right, comrades? Yes, we will reclaim our rightful rights." Nearly 10 people instantly gathered together. The chubby guy smiled with satisfaction. "Did you think we wouldn't know about the secret you've been hiding?" "Secret?" "The way to force the master to change his will. We know how to let this little monster touch us. You might have tried to hide it, but we've all found out. So, if we want to be treated like human beings, why do we have to risk our lives fighting monsters? Isn't this madness?" "Exactly! From now on, we declare our refusal to participate." People centered around the chubby guy raised their fists. With sound effects, the system message was updated. Satan, 1 star, has refused to deploy. 4th party is inoperable. 5th party is inoperable. Massive protest situation. Heroes are causing a riot. I chuckled, messing around without understanding the true meaning of this. I took out my sword from my belt and placed it below my feet. I pushed down with my foot and the sword spun on the plaza floor and slid toward the group. "Cut off one of your arms with that sword, just like that guy. Then I'll spare you." I pointed to the man who was desperately trying to reattach his severed arm. The chubby guy spoke as if he was looking at a madman. "Have you gone crazy? I can't help you if you don't listen to my words. Consider it a cheap education fee. Master, synthesis is starting." Clunk. The door of the synthesis hall opened.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.